We have success on 1/3 of the problem right here.
Matt from Matt's Off-Road Recovery lost his credibility, a huge business deal, and the trust of millions of his followers, just over one stupid mistake. He had built a loyal fan base, a clean reputation, and a brand people actually looked up to. But what the public didn't know was that he was filing false insurance claims.
They called us out for a service. We accomplished the service that we were able to, which was in the verbal contract. They decided not to pay us and have since refused to pay us,
hoping no one would notice. Well, they did, and soon his greed to make more money landed him in court. So what happened? What went so wrong that the man known for helping others ended up at the center of a fraud case? The controversy. Matt Wetzel wasn't always a YouTube star. Before starting a YouTube channel, he was just a guy in southern Utah pulling people out of sand dunes with a tow strap and a smile. He had a solid thing going as he ran the Winder Towing Company. He also had a YouTube channel with a good fan following. Fans loved his clean, down-to-earth content. But behind all that success, he was doing something shady, something illegal. And by the time it caught up to him, it wasn't just his business on the line, it was everything. Let's start with who Matt is. He runs Matt's Off-Road Recovery, a YouTube channel that films real-life rescue missions out in the Utah desert.
So we got a call for a car that is stuck in the sand out to Sand Hollow State Park. So we're heading out there in the Morvair to see if we can get them out.
His team helps stranded drivers get unstuck from sand, mud, snow, in short, everything there is you can get stuck in. It's wholesome, it's entertaining, and it built him a massive following. He had millions of subscribers and even more fans across social media. People trusted Matt as he was the guy who would drop everything to help a stranger. But all of that started to crack when investigators found out that Matt's towing company had been playing fast and loose with the rules. Between early 2019 and mid-2020, Matt's company submitted several reimbursement claims to AAA, which is the National Roadside Assistance Provider. Now, normally, this would not raise any eyebrows. Towing companies submit claims all the time, but what AAA didn't know was that Matt's paperwork was not always accurate. Actually, in some cases, it was just plain false. One of the main problems was that he allegedly misrepresented the kind of vehicles he was towing. AAA doesn't cover every type of vehicle, especially not off-road recreational ones like dune buggies or side-by-sides. But Matt and his crew reportedly listed these off-road machines as covered vehicles. For example, in one video that was publicly available, Matt was shown towing a Polaris RZR at Sand Hollow State Park. That's a small, open-frame off-road ride, which is not exactly what AAA calls a covered vehicle.
All right, that wasn't too bad. Plus, we got to come out and do a little duning, and that's always fun.
Yet, according to documents, his company billed AAA as if it were towing a standard truck. That's creative accounting and not a paperwork error. And it was not the only incident. There were other cases where customers were not even AAA members when they were rescued. But instead of telling them that their vehicle could not be covered, Matt allegedly told them to sign up for AAA after the tow and then file a claim like the rescue had happened after their membership started. That's a huge red flag. You cannot get insurance after something happens and expect to be covered. But apparently that's exactly what some customers did under Matt's direction. Even more bold was the incident when the customer said their vehicle was never even towed, but they were still encouraged to submit a reimbursement claim anyway. That's straight up fraud, and eventually it all caught up to him. In December 2020, Matt actually called investigators himself and admitted to the crime they were suspicious of him committing. He said he knew it was wrong on the inside, but felt like it was still fair on the outside because he did the work and helped the customers. But investigators did not buy that logic. They saw a pattern, not just a one-time slip, and the money involved wasn't pocket change. It was over $15,000. By December 2021, things escalated. The Utah Attorney General's office officially charged Matt Wetzel with second-degree felony insurance fraud. If convicted at the highest level, he could have faced up to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. That's a felony-level charge. His lawyer said Matt had fully cooperated and suggested that it wasn't some grand scam, but more of a procedural mistake. But the state saw it differently. They did not want to consider intentions. They were just looking at the results, and they had enough proof to bring it to court. In February 2022, Matt entered a plea. He didn't say he was guilty, but he also didn't fight it. He pleaded no contest to a lesser charge, a Class A misdemeanor. That move brought the original felony off the table, but still came with consequences. The court ordered Matt to pay back all the money, which was $15,328 exact, to AAA and an extra $1,745 in fines. He was also sentenced to 18 months of probation. Luckily, he received no jail time but still got a public mark on his record. The judge made it clear that if Matt followed every rule during probation, it could be ended early. But if he messed up again, things could go downhill fast. And this is where things got weird. Instead of making a public apology or explaining things in a video, which most YouTubers would do, Matt went quiet. He didn't talk about it on his channel. He didn't address it on social media. He just kept uploading towing videos like nothing had happened. But while he kept working, the internet had questions. Off-road forums lit up with debate. Some users said it was just a paperwork issue and AAA was being too strict. Others said Matt had built his brand on trust and honesty, and this felt like a betrayal. One big concern was the risk of him being blacklisted not just by AAA, but maybe even by other agencies. After all, once the government gets involved, they tend to keep digging. And then happened the inevitable. Winder Towing lost its official contract with AAA, so Matt lost his steady source of income. It wasn't just about money either. AAA brought in a lot of local traffic, and losing that kind of partner can shake the whole business. So, what happened then? How did his lifestyle change after his insurance fraud was exposed? The shift in the lifestyle. Well, it didn't all fall apart overnight, but let's just say the shine wore off pretty fast.
I gotta get Ed his step stool so he can get out. Not too bad.
Matt Wetzel had built something big with Matt's off-road recovery. He had millions of viewers, loyal fans, a stable business, and a growing media presence. But after the fraud case went public, things started slipping. Let's start with the obvious: YouTube. Before the controversy, Matt's channel was pulling in serious numbers. At its peak in 2021, Matt's off-road recovery had 1.55 million subscribers, and the videos were getting views by the millions. That kind of engagement means you get good ad revenue, brand deals, and sponsors knocking on your door. After the case went public, some fans bailed. Not all, but enough to make a dent. YouTube earnings are tied to watch time and consistency, and when a scandal hits, people click less. Some left comments about being disappointed. Others just unsubscribed quietly. A few even started posting reaction videos, tearing him down. And yes, the algorithm noticed and affected his channel's performance. It is hard to say the exact number, but content creators with similar subscriber counts can make anywhere from $25,000 to $45,000 per month in ad revenue alone. If views dip even 25%, that's a huge loss. So yes, Matt probably lost thousands per month just from that shift. Even more so when you consider how many companies have thought twice about reaching out for sponsorships. And then there was the big hit, AAA. Winder Towing, which is Matt's local towing company, had a contract with AAA that brought in steady income. They were a trusted partner, and those jobs weren't just random. They filled the calendar. But once the fraud case came out and it was clear that Matt had been submitting false claims, that contract was canceled. But the good thing was that Matt's business doesn't rely only on towing jobs. While Winder Towing was the foundation, it was not the only thing paying the bills. By the time the fraud charges came around, Matt had already turned his YouTube brand into something way bigger. There were income streams everywhere. He had merch. And not just a couple of t-shirts either. He has launched full collections. Hats, hoodies, custom gear, even ropes with his name on them. Fans bought into the brand, not just the channel. They wore banana shirts and used Matt-branded recovery straps. Even after the case, a lot of them kept buying. Some because they didn't care. Some because they believed in second chances. Then there's Patreon. Matt launched a Patreon account where his most loyal fans could pay for behind-the-scenes content, bonus footage, and sometimes just to show support. And let's be honest, some people weren't going to stop watching over an insurance mistake. They liked the crew, the dogs, the machines, and of course the Utah landscapes. So they stuck around and kept supporting. And speaking of the crew, his videos didn't change much. They still involve the same faces and the same energy. The videos are still pulling cars out of impossible places. The editing stayed clean, the tone stayed humble, and the missions kept rolling. Sure, the channel is not growing at lightning speed anymore, but it didn't crash either. He went from 1.55 million subscribers in 2021 to around 1.96 million this year. Another thing that helped him maintain his luxury lifestyle is his podcast and appearances.
When they called me and they told me that the wheels were still hooked together, I thought, man, you should be able to drive it off the trail, but they said they couldn't. So we came up here, and I've got a lot of experience driving things without steering. Demolition Derby, obviously, for over a decade.
Matt started doing personal podcast-style recordings where he shared stories with close friends, and bits of those made their way to fans. He also appeared in interviews, workshops, and was invited to events across the off-road and YouTube world. This helped him stay relevant and expand his reach even as his towing reputation took a hit. And while the YouTube earnings dipped, he made up for it elsewhere. The on-site store at his junkyard brings in more than the actual towing business, according to Matt. And with global demand for recovery gear rising, especially from fans trying to copy his methods, he stayed in the game financially, even without AAA. So yes, his lifestyle changed. He lost credibility with some followers. He lost a major contract and his income definitely dropped, at least in the short term. But he didn't go broke. Instead of wallowing in the fallout, he focused on what still worked, including his brand, his team, his loyal fans, and his off-road problem solving. And even with fewer views, he still had millions of people watching. Why though? Why does he have such a loyal fan following? To find out, we have to go back to where it all began. How it all began. Before the YouTube channel, Matt Wetzel was just a regular guy living in Hurricane, Utah. Small town surrounded by red rock where people still wave at each other from across the street. He wasn't some big shot influencer with a team of editors and marketing people. He was a roofer, a guy who worked with his hands, climbed up on hot roofs in the summer, and fixed things. For 12 years, roofing was his thing. For 10 of those years, he worked as an employee. The last 2, he ran his own company with a friend. It was called Skyline Roofing, and by all accounts, it was doing just fine. But Matt wasn't really the type to sit still for long. When the chance came up to buy a towing business, he didn't hesitate. He sold his part of the roofing company and bought Red Ryder Towing. That's when everything started to shift. Now the thing is, Matt had never towed professionally before, but he wasn't walking in blind either. He had grown up on a farm, had done plenty of hauling and mechanical work, and had a good sense of how to handle big machines. To him, towing was just another form of problem solving, and he loved that. Still, getting into towing wasn't exactly smooth, especially in southern Utah where the terrain is rough and the people getting stuck usually have no clue what they are doing. Tourists would drive into soft sand thinking their rental SUV was invincible and then end up buried halfway to the doors. Matt got those calls constantly, and at first he didn't even have the right equipment. But instead of turning down jobs, he took them anyway. He made it work even when it didn't work well. He would show up in a standard wrecker, dragging long cables through the heat with his crew just to reach vehicles buried in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes it took 3 or 4 guys and several hours to finish one job. Everything was intense, from the heat, the labor, to the sheer hassle. And for some college kids or broke tourists, the price tag was a nightmare. Matt saw that and started cutting prices, doing jobs at a loss just to help people out. Which might not be a great business strategy, but it tells you something about him. He knew the process was broken. So instead of just pushing through with bad equipment, he decided to build something better. That's how the Banana came to be, which was his first custom off-road recovery vehicle. It was a 2001 Jeep Cherokee painted bright yellow, and it quickly became the face of the operation. People laughed at it at first. One customer even called it the Banana as a joke right before it yanked their massive motorhome out of the sand. That's the moment Matt knew he was onto something, and that's where the idea to film it started. At first, the videos weren't meant for YouTube. He just sent pictures and clips to a couple of friends. One was a pilot, another a nuclear engineer, both stuck at boring desk jobs and living through Matt's chaos on the side. They begged him for updates. So Matt started documenting the jobs with his phone. He would post just raw footage with no editing. People still loved it as they got to see the shaky shots, dirt, sweat, stuck cars, and real-time rescues. Eventually, people told him to put that on YouTube. But Matt was terrible with technology. He didn't like laptops, didn't know how to edit, and didn't even really like messing with cameras. He was a hands-on guy and tech stuff just annoyed him. Still, he gave it a shot. His first YouTube attempt didn't go anywhere. He thought of posting more videos. It was harder than he thought. The filming was clunky, the editing took forever, and the views were not great. Most people would have given up right there, but Matt didn't. Instead of quitting, he started studying YouTube like a science, watching tutorials, learning how algorithms work, and figuring out what people actually wanted to see. That's when he discovered a mobile editing app called LumaFusion. It let him edit everything on his phone, which was a game changer. He could film with his iPhone and edit on the same device. That's how he started building momentum. It didn't take long for one of those videos to go viral. Once that happened, Matt got serious. He wanted to build a real channel, something sustainable. That's when he got in touch with Daryl Eves, who is a big name in the YouTube world. He is known for helping creators blow up. Daryl checked out the channel, saw potential, and offered to work with him. And from that point on, everything changed. Daryl helped him clean up the storytelling, make better thumbnails, and cut videos for maximum engagement. Matt didn't lose his style, he just polished it. The videos still had the same dusty energy, the same friendly vibe. But now they had a beginning, middle, and end. You weren't just watching a tow, you were watching a story. And people connected with that. Another key part is his crew. Matt's team was made up of real people from his life. His wife, Jamie, his kids, his friends, people like Ed and Lizzie, and let's not forget the dogs. There are Lady, Peanut, and Max, who basically became mascots. They are all part of the story. Viewers started tuning in not just for the recoveries, but to see what the crew was up to. It felt like a family business because it was. That's what set him apart. He never flashed his money, he just be himself, and people loved him for it. Do you still watch his videos? Tell us which one was your favorite in the comments below, and before you leave, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more updates. Thanks for watching.